This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
80% on average of people's thoughts is negative, and over 95% of it's repetitive. And just to put it into perspective, we have 6,200 thoughts on average a day, about 5,000 negative, disempowering, destructive thoughts. And then 95% of those just repeat.
You know, I love podcasts like today. And this is going to sound insanely selfish, John, but I have to start here. Like, if I think about like little data points in my life where I go back to my growth, I can't help but think about sitting in your office, gosh, like 5 to 7 years ago.
Wow.
And, you know, and I think Return on Courage for me was a rite of passage moment where I got to basically get quiet and interview really smart people on like what's going on in our minds. And you were one of the first guys I interviewed, and I wanted to say thank you because you didn't know me, and you let me into your world and kind of explain what the heck is going on inside our brains. Now looking back, I don't think I had the clarity as I was going through it, but looking back now, I'll say things like, how cool is it that I got to spend 3 years interviewing the brave, the bullish, and the brainiac? And while I could put you in all three of those categories, I really put you in the brainiac bucket. Like, I remember reading many of your books and going, wow, like, I need to meet this person. As you think about courage and you think about fear and like what's happening in our brain, can you kind of give the listener, well, okay, let's even step back. Can you share your business, what you do on a daily basis? Who are you? I'd rather you do this than me.
Sure. I'm an entrepreneur, but I happen to also be a behavioral neuroscience researcher that's fascinated with being human. And I'm fascinated with, why do we do the things that we do? But I'm actually more fascinated with why don't we do the things we know we should do and could do? And so somebody who studies, the brain and psychology every single day, I've realized a few things that have helped me in my life and helped me in my businesses and helping millions of students now. And so, I develop training programs, and I've developed an entire body of work called Inner Size. And Inner Size is anything you can do to strengthen your mindset and strengthen your mental fitness and your emotional fitness so that you can shatter limitations, remove obstacles, and achieve more of the life that you want to achieve.
John, go back to like before you started down this entrepreneurial path, or did you know out of the gate, like, my curiosity is going to propel me into entrepreneurship? Like, how did you get here?
My journey really started in my late teens. I got into a lot of trouble, didn't do well in school, failed English, failed math in grade 7, left high school after grade 11. The only things that I was good at, or 3 things that I was good at or liked. One was gym class, playing sports. 2 was I was fascinated with biology and really, really did well in my biology class. Failed English and math, was terrible at both of those. And I loved chemistry, alchemy, combining this with that to get that. And I don't know why, but like I learned the periodic tables easily. And I learned that if I combine this with that, you get that. So I was very fascinated with how to combine things. But while all that was going on, I was failing out of school. I was getting in trouble with the law. And I had a chance meeting my brother, who was scared for my well-being, as my family was. My brother introduced me to a guy that he was teaching tennis to. And this guy was a very successful entrepreneur in real estate development and real estate offices. And my brother asked if he would meet me for lunch and see if maybe he can guide me. And I was 19 at the time, literally 43 years ago. And I took the train to meet this gentleman. His name was Alan Brown. And he asked me a whole bunch of questions. But the turning point for me was this one series of questions that led to this one final question, which I'll share with everybody. And he asked me, like, what's my vision for my life and what are the goals that I have? And at the time, I wanted to like buy a car. I wanted to move out of my parents' house. And I wanted to get a job where I was making more than $1.65 an hour, which is what I was earning working in the shipping department of Philips Electronics. And I didn't have any vision or any goals other than those things I said. And he gave me this document. And just to put into perspective, it was the 1980 goal setting guide. And I opened up this document. He asked me to answer these questions. The first question was, at what age do you want to retire? What? I'm 19. My dad's a cab driver. Like, we don't know anybody's retired. Like, I didn't even know what retirement is. So I asked Mr. Brown, what am I supposed to put here? And he said, just pick a date sometime in the future. I said, is like 26 years from now okay? He goes, yeah. So I wrote, a date. Upon retirement, how much net worth do you want to have? And again, I looked at Mr. Brown and said, excuse me, sir, what does net worth mean? No. Then I asked, like, what kind of lifestyle do you want? Where do you want to live? What kind of car do you want to drive? Where do you want to travel? And he asked me all these questions. And I wrote all these answers down and I made up stuff. I had no idea. Like, I didn't have any idea of a concrete answer, just imagination stuff. And then he asked me this one question that I've asked at least 1 million people in the last number of years since I've been teaching and sharing and writing. The question he asked me as he was looking through my vision and my goals that were all made up in my imagination, he said, are you interested in achieving these things, or are you committed to achieving them? And I was like scratching my head a bit. Am I interested or am I committed? And sheepishly and a little bit embarrassed, I said, excuse me, Mr. Brown, what's the difference? And he said, if you're interested, you'll do what's easy and convenient. And you'll use your stories, your reasons, your excuses to keep you stuck repeating the same patterns and results over and over again. He says, but when somebody is committed, they will upgrade their identity to match this new destiny. They will upgrade their beliefs, their habits, their knowledge, their skills, and they will become the type of person who takes the actions required to achieve these goals. And since I know every one of the goals you wrote here is doable, the only thing holding you back is whether you're interested or you're committed. So he leans in, right? And he goes, so, like, what's your answer? Are you interested or are you committed? I don't know, like literally 42 years later, I don't know why I just said, well, in that case, sir, I'm committed. And then he reached out his hand and he says, in that case, I will be your mentor. And I said, wow, thank you. What's a mentor?
And here we are.
That's how green I was. But what happened is I then said I was committed. So he asked me to move from Montreal, where I was living, to Toronto, which I didn't want to do, but I did because I didn't know anybody, didn't have a car, didn't have a job, didn't have anything. I then went to real estate school for 5 weeks, 9 to 5, even though I hated school, didn't do well on tests. I passed the test, became a real estate agent. And then I went to work in his company on commission only, zero salary, zero draw. And he taught me how to be a real estate agent. That was the beginning of the shift for me because I realized I'm not dumb. I can do this when I apply myself, but it does take commitment. And I sold real estate for a few years, then traveled around the world, took some of the money I made, and then I came back and started my own real estate company called Remax of Indiana and built a $4.5 billion a year company in 10 years. So that's kind of like the beginning of it, of taking my mess that my life was in and then turning it into my message today, because I've never stopped learning and growing and failing and succeeding and learning from that. And I was fascinated all along, like, what happened to me as a result of those decisions? What happened to me as a result of Mr. Brown asking me to look at my goals every day? What happened in my brain when I was using visualization and affirmations and then taking the action to learn, the knowledge and the skills? I was fascinated with how did I change so drastically to be able to achieve goals I never in a million years would have thought of. And I've been a student of that for 42 years.
John, I got to ask, I, so I moved to California at 29, so 10 years after, and I felt like I got lucky. I had learned from all the crazy madmen folks in New York City. It was the tail end of that era, and there was so much fear in that world. But I do say, like, when I came out here, I moved out here to write movies, not live one. Like, I never meant to start anything. I didn't go to business school. I was a television radio major, and my first business was four of us out of a house, so we grew it from there. But it was purely fear and stubbornness for me. When Alan Brown kind of holds his hand out and says, "I will be your mentor," and I'm like, I wish I would have had a mentor.
Oh, I
But
know.
when somebody actually invests, when you feel that, wow, this person is going out of their way to see something in me, and, and I know it's now been a while, but when you go back to that, are you thinking fear? Like, are you like, I don't want to, like, I'm afraid to let this person down now that they've invested in me? Or did he show you enough where it was like, okay, I can do this. I have to commit and let's go. Like, do you remember?
I do remember. I knew that my life at that time was heading in one of two directions: jail, because of the illegal things I was doing, or the morgue, again, because of the illegal things I was doing. So the alternative for me was to trust him more than I trusted myself. And in placing my trust that he would know, because he had the evidence that was very different than mine, beautiful family, great business, philanthropist, healthy. Yes, I was afraid of letting him down. So I was able to take that fear of letting him down, propel me, and use it as my fuel to do what he asked of me. And initially it was petrifying, because I was afraid of, being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, unloved. I was afraid of exposing how I am not that smart. They were right in school, to kick me out on numerous occasions. So that fear actually fueled me. But trust me, like, I gave you the short version of the story. When he asked me to move from Montreal to Toronto, I had $50 in my bank account. And he asked me to move to a new city where I just knew him now. My brother was there teaching tennis. I said, but I don't know anybody here. I don't know where to live. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. I don't have money. He says, I know, but those are your old stories, reasons, and excuses. He says, first you make the decision and then you figure out how to do the thing. And then he said, well, you've got to go to real estate school. It's $500. I go, real estate school? I hate school. I flunked English. I flunked math. This is during lunch. And he says, stop. You keep reinforcing these patterns that seem real to you. And this is the anchor that holds you back. So I borrowed money from my brother, my sister, and my mother. My father didn't have any money to give me. And I rounded up that $500 to pay for the real estate school, because Mr. Brown said, no, you have to figure this out. And I was mad at him initially, but I thank him today for showing me that I can figure this stuff out. It was the first time in my life, and I haven't shared this too many times, but throughout high school, I cheated on just about every single test. To get out of high school, I cheated on the final exam. Okay, a friend of mine gave me all 50 answers on a little piece of paper that was multiple choice. He rolled it up in a little ball and flicked it on my desk in the gymnasium where, the teachers were walking around to make sure no kids cheated. And I ended up graduating from high school because of this guy, Ted Carolus, who reached out to me literally 20 years later because he found me and I helped him. I had not passed a test on my own in years. And here I was back in real estate school with money that I borrowed, with a commitment to passing the test. And I actually passed it on my own. It was the first time I actually felt proud of myself in my whole high school era time. And it was the first time that, like, real confidence showed up, real courage showed up, because I actually did the work and I became the person required to show up and use the fear as the fuel. I don't like, today I can look back and go how significant that was. Back then, it was purely like fear of Like, I wasn't afraid of dying. I wasn't afraid, like, even going to jail wasn't that scary. But disappointment avoidance, I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want to let my mother and father down more. I didn't want to let my brother down. So yeah, it was a pivotal moment for me. And it's also partially why, I coach so many people today is to give them, the real chance, the real hope of shattering limitations and overcoming fears and overcoming self-doubt or self-image issues of not being good enough or smart enough or having this imposter syndrome. I've done a lot of research on the neuromechanics of all of this to understand, why does this happen to so many of us? And then, is there an antidote? Is there a solution for it? And I think the answer is yes.
Well, it's cool to hear, and thank you for sharing your reel. Like, it really resonates with me. As an observationalist, I always feel like I was closer to the floor than the ceiling. Like, right? Like, in my ability, because I never thought I was going to do anything. Like, my brother was branded as the smart one in my family. At least that's how I took it. That was, to your point, that's what I took away. And I was branded as the athlete, but good with people, which I equated to, then I must be the stupid one. And
Mm.
so I always thought, well, he's the smart one. And I grew up in a part of the country, grew up outside of DC in a 3-car garage house. So I had seen success, but I'm like, okay, the two truths I had was I'm stupid, and the unspoken rule in my family was you're supposed to do better than the last generation, which tells you we we weren't in Maslow, right? I'm like, how, as the stupid one, am I going to compete with this world? And you go on your journey, and there have been times when I felt, like I said, it's like a slingshot. It's like, how low is I willing to go to believe in the pop versus before I ever got to where I needed to go. Now, I remember reading one of your books, and forgive me, I can't remember which one it was, but it was, which is also a compliment because you've written multiple books here, but you were talking about making sure when you invest, if you're going to follow an idea, make sure it's a monetizable idea. Do you remember this book? I forget which
Well,
one of these.
yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on the context. So I've written several books, as you mentioned, a couple of New York Times bestsellers. The one behind me, Inner Size. I'm sorry, Inner Size is there to unlock your brain's hidden power, and the answers for business owners. Having it all was about how can you have health and wealth, relationships, career, and business. But in pursuing ideas, for wealth or for business, you can focus on doing those things and doing them for charity or psychic income for yourself. But you can also do it in a way to monetize so that you can get paid financially, including psychically. But then you can take the money that you earn and live a great lifestyle, which I think everybody deserves, but then accelerate what you're doing, and help more people. So the purpose of monetization and making more money, yes, it's to live a good, comfortable lifestyle yourself, but money is an accelerator, right? And so you can use money to accelerate helping more people if that's what's important to you. Impact and influence is very important to me, and having a positive impact and influence in people's lives. Money allows me to do that, allows me to fund the charities that my wife and I and family love. It allows me to expand my business. It allows me to do more of what I do to help more people. So I think there's things we do for monetary income. And as I mentioned, if you could do something that gives you the psychic income, the emotional income as well, like, wow, that's like, you've arrived.
So you mentioned already, pointed to what's over your shoulder. There's 3 things that I'm very curious about what's in the background here. You've got 2 Steins that I want to talk about in a book. So you got
Okay.
Einstein.
Einstein.
I think you've got
Frankenstein's
Frankenstein. Is that Frankenstein? Is that who it is?
Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein, not Dr.
Okay.
Frankenstein. That's his monster.
All right. Tell me more about that.
So as somebody who studies, the brain a little bit, I also have something. I just finished training a few thousand entrepreneurs, but I have my little brain here with all the little parts of the brain. And some of the new research over the last, number of years is that, we have three core networks in the brain. It's the salience network, the executive functioning network, the default mode network, and we'll leave those aside. But we also know we have different circuits in the brain. So, for example, when you and I think about achieving a goal we really want to achieve, and we can really visualize it and emotionalize it, we know that the nucleus accumbens and insula part of the brain releases this dopamine in anticipation of achieving that goal and having that thing and reaching that goal. So that's like a circuit. But we also know that, let's say, when we set a goal, that maybe has some risk associated with it. Like, what if I fail? What if I succeed and fail? What if I'm embarrassed? What if I disappoint Mr. Brown? What if I'm embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged or rejected or unloved? Oh my God, these are all real things. Those are circuits. And so Frankenstein's monster there and Einstein over here remind me that there is a Frankenstein's monster in everybody's brain. Now, why do I say that? Well, functionally, every brain works the same, right? Functionally, every gasoline car works the same, electric car works the same functionally. And so I know that I have a Frankenstein's monster that's always on alert for, will this hurt me? Will I lose money? Will I lose time? Will she take advantage of me? Will he take advantage of me? And we have this little critic that is always thinking, but what if you're wrong? What if you make a mistake? What if negative? And when that circuit's on, this circuit is off, right? So why I remind myself of that is the same reason we learn to use the gas and the brakes in our car. You have to have both. You'd never get into a car with just brakes, and you'd never get into a car with just acceleration, right? So our job, just like driving a car, is important. We need to know when to put the gas on, when to ease up on it, and when to put the brakes on. So the hierarchy of how our brain works is survival and safety and security first. So if my brain, which is what I call the $100 billion biocomputer that I own, perceives something that's real or imagined that could, not will, but could cause me harm or discomfort, Frankie's monster goes nuts. It's an early warning system. Just like if you're driving your car and a light flashes on your dash, you don't take a hammer and hit the light. It's just an early warning. It's a detection mechanism. So you actually, oh, thank God, I know there's low air in my tire before I get on the highway. Oh my God, I see that the light for low gas is on, or the trunk is open. You love that, don't you? Well, why not treat this side of you, the inner critic, the same way? Say, hey, thank you for making me aware that this might happen. But then why not then switch over to Einstein, the executive director of your brain, the CEO, the part of you that can imagine, the part of you that can come up with plans and counter plans to what Frankie's monster is coming up with. And instead of allowing Frankie to run the show, let Einstein run the show with Frankie as the co-pilot to just be aware of things that might go wrong because of what happened in the past, or what happened to your sister or brother or mother or father or friend, or what you watched on TV or read about. And so we have this insanely powerful brain, but most people have never gotten the user's manual, nor have they practiced how to use the amazing brain well. And so they're living in fear with stress and anxiety and worry, and some of it's warranted, but most of it isn't. Most of the things we fear are not because of our own doing. And so my goal, especially with Inner Size, is to help people manage and then master their self-talk, to help people manage and then master their emotional regulation, to help people manage then master their behavior and habits, so that all three of those are empowering, positive, and constructive instead of disempowering, destructive, and negative. And this is something we can train our brains to do for us.
John, you got 340 million here in the US alone.
Yeah.
What, if it's a light switch, if it's a click on, click off, what percent, it's an awareness issue too, right? What percent do you think are stuck in the monster phase
Oh,
versus the
yeah. The research shows that 80% on average of people's thoughts is negative, and over 95% of it's repetitive.
Oof.
And just to put into perspective, we have 6,200 thoughts on average a day,
Wow.
right? So just
Wow.
imagine, right? 80% of 6,200 is about 5,000 negative, disempowering, destructive thoughts. And then 95% of those just repeat day after day after day. So the first question is, am I my thoughts? The second question is, can I be aware of thoughts and release the ones that don't serve me and replace them with ones that do? Well, yeah, we can. That's called mindfulness and training your own brain. And then, am I my emotions? How are emotions different than feelings? Like, am I a creature of habit? Yes. Well, where are your habits? Like, what do you know if you're a creature of habit and some of your habits support you and help you do wonderful things, but your other habits, you're like, why do I keep doing that? They're destructive or disempowering you. But most people don't understand what is a habit. How do I release, let go of ones that disempower me? And can I replace them with new empowering ones? Well, the answer, of course, is yes. And the science of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new patterns. If you think about this, this is like a question that everybody has the same answer. Was there ever a baby that was born with any habits?
Hmm.
No. Was there
No.
ever a baby born with low self-esteem or self-worth? Was there ever a baby born with disempowering, destructive beliefs? No. Was there ever a baby born with a low self-image or self-worth? Propensities, yes. Genetic predispositions, yes, but we know epigenetics overrides genetical imprinting. So the question then becomes is, where did I develop and how did I develop my self-worth? Where did I develop my beliefs? And what is it in the brain? Like, what is it in the human brain? Can we touch it? Can we feel it? Can we see it? And we know that no differently than a software programmer sits at her computer and programs code into language, and then that becomes software, and then the software is the most important part of your computer. The hardware is not the most important part. The operating system is not the most important part. The software is. So what if we started to think about our beliefs as software? What if we started thinking about self-image as software? What if we started to think about our emotions, which are triggered in our subconscious mind, just as software programming that triggers certain circuits? And if it's true that we can deliberately evolve ourselves, then what are the mechanisms to create and reinforce new empowering patterns or software? That's where inner science comes in, right? So if we reverse engineer, why are you the way you are? Well, okay, because my father and mother and grandfather were this and this and this. Okay, great, but how else did you develop patterns that were reinforced? Oh, television, what you read, school, brother, sister, mother, father, caregiver, which means that those neurons that fired together back then wired together back then. And the neurons that wired together that got reinforced became the dominant neurons, no differently than building a highway system in a new city that at one time it was dirt, but then the highway system has got, the highway, the freeway, the interconnected, roads that lead to it and through the rest of the city. those are neural patterns in our brain. So it's kind of like new roads, new roads. And so I've spent my entire adult life understanding the mechanisms by which we can create and reinforce empowering constructive patterns so that I can fulfill more of my potential and then maybe help some people along the way.
No, it's so cool to see how, first of all, it's just like, I just could sit here and listen to you talk about this for days,
Thank you.
but you're passionate about it and you're helping people. And I think inner size is a great place to start. I'm curious for you, because I'm sure you've learned so much. What for you, like, what do you personally need to see, like, to train your own brain? Like, I'll give you an example. You walk into the office unit right now, you see the Steins over your head, and it's a quick trigger reminder, right? A visual reminder of like, oh yeah, these things are happening. And I've always loved little devices like that, where like on my phone, all my labels or my alarms are changed. So I see at least once a day what I need to see for me as a short circuit to combat exactly what you talked about, that 80% of the time my brain is trying to tell me negative shit about myself. And I'm like, oh, I need to see this and remind myself, like, I'm on my journey, I'm on my path. Just give me 1 to 3, not just that's maybe an inner size, but like that just works so well for you that you need to do for yourself.
Sure. So I created, I think I may have mentioned this to you in the past when we've seen each other. I created these inner sizes to guide me. I created about 550 of them so far. And inner size number 1, for example, is a very, very simple thing to do in less than 90 seconds. It gives you some control and releases stress and anxiety and worry and fear. And when we understand, the brain, right? We understand we have the brain stem and we have something called the vagus nerve. And we know that the vagus nerve has got 2 real sides to it. One is called the sympathetic part of the nervous system and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic is the reactive fight, flight, freeze part of our system. And then the parasympathetic is our calm to respond system, right? Circuits. So whenever I feel like I'm stressed or something's bugging me or I've got any anxiety going on and I'm feeling this current, I take 6 very, very, very slow breaths in through my nose. I always close my eyes. That's called interoception. You can keep your eyes open and do it. It's called exteroception. But interoception means I'm going to breathe in. I usually focus on, the tip of my nose over here, the bridge of my nose, and I breathe in as slowly as I can through to my diaphragm first, just below my belly button. So as your belly expands, and then I inhale into my lungs and expand my chest. I hold it for 1 or 2 seconds, and then I just breathe out as slowly as I can through my mouth, as if I'm blowing out through a straw. So I pucker my lips. And as I do this, I can actually feel my own heartbeat. I release all the air. And then I do that again. I breathe in gently through my nose. And a lot of times I breathe in calmness. I'll hold that calmness in right now. And then I say, I release when I exhale, doubt, fear, stress, worry, anxiety. I just feel my heart and my blood pulsing quietly. I'm paying attention. And then I do it again 4 more times. I breathe in calmness, courage, confidence, certainty. I release worry, fear, stress, anxiety. And here's what we know. We can actually see blood flow moving from that right prefrontal cortex, Frankie's monster, shifting over to Einstein. As soon as I deactivate this doubt, fear, worry, anxiety, uncertainty circuits, and I shift deliberately over to the calm to respond, CEO, left prefrontal cortex of the brain. And then I can go right into what I call inner size number 2. And inner size number 2, first one's called take 6, calm the circuits. Well, we want to calm the circuit first before we move into what should I do? So I do AYA, AIA, and AYA stands for awareness, intention, action. So the question is awareness of what? And I want to be deliberate about being aware of my thoughts without judging, without blaming, without shaming, without guilt. Just be aware. Are my thoughts positive, constructive, empowering, or are they negative, destructive, disempowering me? Just awareness, because a thought is just a thought. It only becomes more real when I give it energy. So energy will flow to where attention goes. So my attention is on awareness, thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors. And I ask myself, okay, are my thoughts aligned with the results I want in health, wealth, relationships, career, business? Yes or no? Binary. Are my emotions aligned with, my health, wealth, relationship, career, business goals? And so I'm just aware of those. And then I go, what's my intention for the next 30 minutes? Well, my intention is to be positive, to be courageous, to be in action, to be productive, to do important things. Great. That's my intention. Great. What's one action that I can deliberately take starting right now? Not 10, one. So now I have the ability to pause and be aware. I have the ability to direct my attention based on my intentions. And now, if I do that on an ongoing basis of choosing one constructive, productive, empowering, critical thing that moves me towards my goals, then I start to deliberately control my mindset, my emotions, and my behaviors. Now, the beautiful thing, if we do this on an ongoing basis, is it becomes a habit. Now, what's the nature of a habit? A nature of the habit is no thought required. There's no thought. It's a habit. I just do this, right? So when I train my brain to be in a state of awareness without judgment, blame, shame, guilt, or justification, I'm just observing. When I observe, I can set intentions. When I set intentions, I could direct my energy and action. And if I do this enough, I go from conscious effort to do this to unconscious competence when my brain just does it naturally. So as I work, as I play, whatever it is, my brain is consistently doing it. On course, off course, empowering, disempowering, constructive, destructive, move me towards what I want or away. And if I do the awareness of why is this happening, right? Then I could start to shift. And no differently than an autopilot on an airplane, on a ship, or on a missile, right? Can autocorrect and adjust to get you to the destination. You can train your brain to help you discover the errors because it has an error detection mechanism within it. It has a GPS system within your brain as well that can lead you towards every goal that's achievable right now. The challenge is most people spend more time planning their vacations than learning about this. But if you think about what does a Navy SEAL have to learn? This. What does an astronaut need to learn? This. What does a firefighter need to learn? This. What does a highly successful entrepreneur need to learn? This. What does a highly successful athlete need to do? This. Well, what about the rest of us that are not astronauts or pilots or Olympic athletes? They're all paying millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars through their organizations, training their brains to react automatically at the highest level possible for a human being. What about us? What about us that don't have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to spend on our training? LeBron James spends $1 million a year, okay, on the inner game stuff, right? Why? But why at 38 is he still one of the best basketball players ever? Because of what he has trained his brain to do and his body, of course. And there's other people as well. So I like to have a very deliberate way, and like I said, I call it inner size. And I could simulate, what I want through visualization. Visualization is a simulation. Practice makes permanent. So if you practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So if you practice the right thought patterns, emotional patterns, behavioral patterns, they become more permanent patterns that are become automatic. And there's a part of the brain called the striatum, where is, basically where the habits start to formulate those connections and connect to other parts of the brain to make those things effortless and automatic. And that's known as automaticity in the neuroscience world. So I want to automate any of the success, thought, emotional, behavioral patterns that are aligned with health, wealth, relationships, career, business goals, charitable goals that I want to achieve. So I'm willing to invest 15, 20 minutes a day to exercise, to strengthen my core neuromuscles as much as I invest. Okay, I actually invest, 60 minutes a day on my physical body to stay in really great shape.
Curious if you are a man of habit or a man of ritualization. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Do you?
Both.
So like the six breaths.
I meditate every morning. I take 6 breaths 15 times a day, right? So there's rituals that I do in the morning, my meditation as soon as I wake up, my gratitude as soon as I wake up, my meditation as soon as I wake up, my exercises right after that, my exercise right after that, my protein shake right after that. I don't care where I am in the world. That is my opening routine for the first 90 minutes of every day to 2 hours. I could be in China, Antarctica, Alaska, or San Diego. It doesn't matter. I just came from, being with my kids and my wife on vacation, and I'm up at the same time, the same routine. I eat the same, foods because I've gotten into more constructive, empowering rituals or habits than destructive ones. When I was younger, there were way more destructive ones. Now that I'm a little bit older and wiser, there are a lot more constructive ones. Build me up versus tear me down.
First of all, I learned I shouldn't be surprised in any way, shape, or form, but I always learned something from you.
Thank
I
you.
love the breaths. I hope no one was in their car driving when we were doing it. It might be
With their eyes
hopefully,
open. Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully they pulled over. There's this famous proverb that fear and courage are kin, that you can't get to the courageous move without first addressing that fear or suppressing, going through it, channeling through it. Let's say someone right now they feel stuck. They feel stuck in the job that they want more. And yes, they need to take it upon themselves. But like, what advice would you give them to be more brave, to be more, maybe it's asking for promotion. Like, what's one sort of inner size or advice you would give them to be more courageous?
Sure. So let's start with the fear side of it, right? Fear is normal. Like, first and foremost, you being afraid. I often will make money betting people that nobody's afraid of public speaking. Somebody always takes me up. Of course, I'm afraid of public speaking. No, you're not. I'll bet you $100. And I've made 10 grand in $100 bets on this one. And I said to them, are you really afraid of public speaking? Or are you really afraid of speaking in public and either making a mistake and being embarrassed or ashamed, ridiculed, judged, rejected? Like, which one? Are you afraid of the public speaking or what might happen when you speak publicly? 100 out of 100 go, oh, well, this one or that one or these things. So, oh, give me my $100. Now let's understand what's happening. So when we think about asking for a raise, when we think about leaving a job and starting our own venture, when we think about public speaking, when we think about anything that may be not in our current comfort zone, Frankie's Monster's responsibility to you, this amazing part of you, is supposed to go, wait, hold on. You might be embarrassed. You might be ashamed. You might get ridiculed. You might be rejected. Wait. And so you, all of a sudden, your body has got a rush of cortisol, stress hormones, and you're on edge. And if it's true that the body's automatic reaction is avoidance of real or imagined pain or discomfort, that is your perfect, beautiful first reaction. So your body is doing, your brain is doing exactly what it needs to do. So it's like, yes, thank you. Now, go, okay. Is it possible that if I speak in public, if I ask for that raise, I'll be rejected or met? Yep, it is possible. That is true. So now let's breathe to deactivate that fear circuit, because it's the circuit that's turning off or turning on. And if we think about what we are feeling and feel what we think about, we just keep re-triggering that circuit, releasing more cortisol into the bloodstream. And then we have this anxiety. It's like, no, I don't want this anymore. So I just say no to that and I don't do it. But what if I could say, okay, I understand you're afraid. You've got a lot of evidence from when you were a kid in school and you got up and spoke, and some of your friends made fun of you because you got the wrong answer. Like, why would you want to do that again? You've asked a boss for a raise in the past and they just rejected you and put you down and put you in your place, or your father did it, or your mother did it, or your brother or sister did something that when you asked for something, they just shut you down. And you felt like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Well, what if you could deactivate that circuit quickly and then shift over to Einstein and go, okay, so I'm afraid of speaking, I'm afraid of asking, okay, for a raise. What evidence do I have that I'm going to be rejected? What are the references that I have for being rejected? Well, 2 jobs ago, this boss really put me down, right? So now I can start having a dialogue with what it is that I really fear, right? And now I can start saying, well, do I really want the fear to control me, or do I want to operate from a place of courage, knowing that I do have to take some risk to achieve what I want? Now, is there anything that I can do to mitigate what I'm really afraid of from happening? So let's say I want to ask for a raise. I can say, well, great. One of the things I could do to mitigate, the fear is, let me do some research as to what people are getting paid who do my type of job. Let me research, or let me put down all the things that I do that validates receiving a promotion or receiving more money. So let me counter, the rejection or the embarrassment with some new evidence. And then saying, now, if I don't take the action, then what am I really reinforcing? And if I do take the action, isn't that who I want to be? Isn't that me stepping up to the highest, best version of me? Now, if we do what I just suggested in a calm state, not in an excited, fearful state, if I do the exercise in a calm state, I counterbalance the fear. And now I can activate my courage neurocircuits and take the action required, because I am focusing on the reward and the result, which means I'm going to release dopamine instead of cortisol, or even better yet, I'm going to turn the fear and use the cortisol, mix it with dopamine, which is actually a flow state.
Oh, I'm here for flow. I
Right?
box checked.
Right.
John.
So I can use it's almost like turning fuel into rocket fuel. Right. And then, when I actually take the action and I frame it in a way that no matter what happens, I'm going to build my courage muscle. No matter what happens, I'm going to build my self-worth and self-esteem muscle. No matter what happens, I'm going to learn. No matter what happens, I'm going to be better. No matter what happens, let me create a counter, benefit document or benefit list to the what I don't want frame. So now I could say, if I don't take action, here's all the negative or the things that are going to happen. If I do take action, here's the way I frame it in a way that empowers me. Now I can make a decision where I have a counterweight of harmony happening, and I'm operating from this part of my brain, not the fear center of my brain.
I just love hey, listener, I understand evidence is real, but don't be afraid to make new evidence. Go make your evidence.
That's right.
Look, go make those little experiments. And it's so funny. I had an old soccer coach that said, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Right.
But I really love your practice makes permanent. And that means don't be afraid that it's messy, and experiment with creating new evidence for yourself, because over time, that the aggregation of that is the harmony. It is the counterbalance. And then you're a step further away from what you thought was a truth to a new truth.
That's right. And here's the other thing that you can do to release the neural tension is imagine yourself taking action and imagine getting rejected. Imagine hearing a no and saying, okay, thank you. Can you please explain to me why? Play it in your mind. Mental rehearsal reduces the neural tension. Part one. Now practice the mental rehearsal of getting a yes. And how will that make you feel? And are you prepared, all right, to potentially not get what you want so that you can have a chance of getting what you do want? And then focus your energy and attention on what you do want, but prepare for maybe not getting it right now. Can you handle it? What's the worst that can happen? I hear a no. I get embarrassed or ashamed, but I have to allow myself to be embarrassed or ashamed or rejected based on the frame that I hold. So either way, I can win. So create winning frames, rehearse in advance both scenarios, and choose what's going to help you grow and develop and build courage. And you'll be able to turn your fear into fuel.
John, I know we're almost at time. I have one last quickie. In your mind, from your experience, what percent of people fear success, and what would you help them with?
Yeah. There are usually two reasons people would fear success based on what they have heard. Some successful people lose it all. So they're countering the fear of succeeding and then loss. Some people become assholes, okay, who achieve success. So they're afraid of becoming an asshole. And I tell them, number one, you just become more of what you were before. And then the third one is some people fear that they're going to lose their identity and their friends when they become more successful. And these are all just ideas and concepts that they have as reference points, but they're not the truth. There are some people who lose their identity, choose not to. There's some people who become assholes. Are you an asshole now? If you're not an asshole now, you're not going to become an asshole. Some people are afraid that people are going to demand more things of them. And okay, I can see that one being valid, but just because somebody's asking you for whatever it is, you don't have to say yes. You're not a tree, right? You have choice. And so the key is to change the frames until you create empowering frames. So the fear is real because you're having it. But the question is, what's triggering the fear? That's where you have to go a little bit deeper. What's causing me to fear this? Well, my father, my mother, my uncle, my brother. I read it in a book. I saw it on TV. I heard it from a friend. Oh, okay. Well, does that mean it's universal? Right? Does that mean that success, fearing success is universal? No. The only reason we feel something like fear of success or failure is we have references for that. So let's create new references. Let's change the meaning of the references we have. And in changing the meaning, we're actually changing the memory of the reference. And there are inner-size techniques to do that. So now I'm not a victim of my old past or conditioning. Now I'm much more aware of it, but then I equip myself with tools to win the inner game.
John, thank you so much, man, for coming on. Man. I love that you got, and guys, the Steins, look to the Steins, right? We love both of them, right? Like, thank you, one, thank you for helping me watch out for that threat. Doesn't mean I need to listen to it. And Einstein is here to help me be the CEO I am. Pick up Inner Size, folks. And John, I know you do these, I think you call them brain-a-thons, right? Is that getting that right? When's the next brain-a-thon?
It's on Saturdays. And we have some brain experts, that are teaching for many, many hours. It's free. And it should be brainathon123.com.
I get to see John now because of we're in a group together, and like, he didn't ask me to do this. Like, I think you're helping so many people figure out, I mean, the largest muscle we have, right? Why wouldn't you take that to the gym? So I've always loved the concept of the brainathon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, for coming on, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, my friend. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.